Good evening. Thank you for tuning in to North King Gaming. I'm the channel host Sean, and tonight we're doing a delve session of a homebrew for Elder Scrolls Call to Arms. After sipping on my cup of tea and what seems to be about 1,000 different vocal takes to try to get this right, we finally find ourselves in scenic Tamriel. With that being said, though, there's a couple of things I want to mention before we get started on this game today. So the first one is that I have to make clear that this is the first time I've actually played this game on camera. So because of that, it's very likely that there may be one or two odd interactions that may not be accurate or correct. I normally learn best when I'm playing these games with friends or members of my community, but because of the current global state, I don't have access to that resource. So because of that, I haven't been able to work out the kinks as well as I'd like. So if you see something that seems maybe off based on your understanding of the rules, leave a comment below and I will take the details that you provide and use it to sharpen up my game. The second thing I want to mention is that tonight's scenario doesn't actually exist in the quest book for the Call to Arms starter package. This is something that I put together myself. The idea behind this mission is to show off some of the basic interactions between models, objectives, treasures, and tokens, while providing a sort of a prologue story that will lead into the Bleak Falls Barrow sessions that I'm going to be doing a little later on in the year. So without further ado, let's kick this off and let's see whether or not I can actually get the Dragonborn to survive her first mission. Let's go. So to keep things simple, for the deployment, I've just decided to throw the Bleak Falls Barrow set on the table to get us moving. So if you have a look at the top table edge there, you'll see we've got the Dragonborn sitting here ready to make a jaunt across the board. And across the table we have the rest of the Draugr and the skeletons from the same set, basically trying to stop the show. So you'll notice that the only model that's not on here from that set is the Overlord, and the reason for that is because I wanted to keep things simple. I didn't want to include multi-wound models to complicate things for what was intended to be a simple video. So the models here represent a table size of about 100 points, or septums as they're called in this game, and the septum costs for each model can be found on their individual character cards, which I'll show you guys shortly. So the mission here is pretty straightforward. So I put a small tower at the bottom of the map here to represent WhiteRun. The goal is to basically survive and get there. Simple enough. For added flair, I've also put an objective marker on the bridge to keep things interesting, but I'm committed to making sure that that's not going to be used as a showstopper. It's just an interaction point for the game, just so we can spice it up a little bit. So that way, if the Dragonborn decides that she wants to activate it, she doesn't necessarily have to worry about a dog pile if she doesn't get it on the first go. Alright, so now that I've got the disclaimer stuff out of the way, let's talk very quickly about the models we're going to be using in the game tonight. So, for the champion or the hero, we have the Dragonborn, which most of you are probably familiar with. She has a 74 septum cost, and because I've set a 100 septum cost limit, it's given me a bit of flexibility to buy some equipment. So, I have bought the steel sword for 5 septums. Sorry, 3 septums. No, 5 septums. My eyes are just messy. And it offers an extra 1 green die and 2 yellow die for damage when inflicting a wound against an opponent. And if I roll a critical, I get 1 extra stamina restored to the character. Okay. I've also bought a banded iron shield, which is also 5 septums, which gives me 2 yellow dice on block. And if I roll a critical, then I also get an additional green die. And then for studded leather, for armor, I bought studded leather, which is an additional 6 septums, which will give me an additional yellow die on armor checks, and also gives me a green die to light armor skill checks. Okay, so overall septum limit for the hero is 74 plus 10 plus 6, so that gives me 90 points. And for our monsters for this evening's game, we have 6 monsters here. We have 3 of the Draugr and 3 of the skeletons. The Draugr are 24 points each and the skeletons are 15, so that brings us to a total of 72 plus 45. So that gives us about 119 points in models, if my math is correct. Probably not, but close in around there. Now you'll notice that there's also a card on the side. It's that is the AI activation card, That will tell you how the different models will react when their turn comes up. Now, one thing I do want to clarify, and I had to reach out to Modiphius to clarify this, the Draugr card is actually meant to manage both the Draugr and the skeleton models. It's not meant to just do the Draugr. The card won't necessarily say anything to lead you to that conclusion. So I only found out because I emailed Modiphius saying, hey, there's no skeleton AI card, to which they clarified that the Draugr card is meant to manage both. So that will cover all the monsters with the exception of the Overlord in the Bleak Falls Barrow Delve set. Alright, so first round initiative goes to the Dragonborn as per the token cost. As you can see, we've got the Dragonborn symbol as a part of our check for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the Dragonborn her base 6 inches to here. And rather than do anything else, I'm not going to spend any stamina points. I'm just going to let her sit there and let the move go to reaction or enemy activation. Alright, so there are actually no enemies within 6 inches, so now we're just going to do random single model activation because this is only 100 septim game. Only one model gets to activate on this turn. So to the opponent's turn, we will take the coin here, which flips to enemy number 6, which is the archer. Okay, so with the skeleton's activation, we have to reference the path. So for skeletons, it's Path of Shadows. So we'll be using this column in the middle, so they have a chance of either fighting, moving, or attacking. So let's roll and see what we get here. So we get pips, so it means that it has the move activation, so it'll be making a move basically towards the Dragonborn with some degree of caution. So with that AI in action in mind, the skeleton is basically going to do a dead walk towards, not necessarily directly towards the Dragonborn, but is going to do a full movement and try to get into the trees over here. Actually, he's more inclined to go like that to try to gain that cover there. Okay, and that will actually take us to the second round. So because we finished the first round, we're going to draw our first event card, which is Inspirational Bard. Place an NPC token or spare model on the board no closer than 10 inches to any of your own models. It cannot be moved like a civilian. During the game, you may spend 1 victory point when one of your heroes is in contact with the token to increase one of your attributes by +2 for the rest of the game. Remove the token as soon as the bonus is claimed. Not bad, okay. So let's put a token on the board to represent our bard. So we've gone ahead and put the bardic token on the table. He is just over here minding his own business. Alright, moving on to round 2. Okay, so the second round initiative actually goes to the monsters. So randomly flipping our tokens, we see that it goes to monster number 3, which is actually one of the Draugr on the other side of the bridge, which is just over there. More specifically, dude holding the bridge. Alright, so let's go to the AI table and see what his activation is going to look like. Okay, so because we're using a Draugr instead of a skeleton for this round, the AI is going to be a little different. So the Draugr use the Path of Might, so it's going to be using the Might table. So it'll either go for an objective to defend it, or it will go straight on the attack, or it will go straight onto the movement. So let's see what it offers here. Okay, so we have the Oblivion symbol, which is movement. So it's going to make a movement towards ideally the closest objective character, or just wherever it would like to go. Because its only primary target's going to be the Dragonborn for this game. It's just going to make a dead move, including a sprint towards the Dragonborn. Okay, so it's going to move its 6 inches, which will put it midway through the bridge. But because it's an aggressive mighty model, it's actually going to move in accordance to priority. So it's going to actually try to get to the Dragonborn, and because it's not within immediate reach, it's going to do its best, which means it will gain an additional sprint if it wishes, to move an additional 3 inches towards its intended priority. So, whoops. That puts him right at the foot of the bridge there. Okay. Next turn goes to the Dragonborn. So, the Dragonborn's got a bit of a conundrum here because it's trying to get to the castle and it's got 2 opponents ideally ahead of it and one that can shoot at it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to charge at the blue Draugr. So I have a movement of 6 and I can sprint for up to 3, so it gives me 9 inches of movement, which will take me right in. So let's go here. Okay, so we've got 1 stamina on the Dragonborn to represent the fact that she sprinted. Now, because this could lead to a pile-on, I want to minimize the capacity of enemies to pile onto me, so I'm going to boost my to hit on the Draugr. So I'm spending an extra stamina, so we're now up to 2 out of my 3 to boost the hit. So what I need is 5 or lower in order to be able to hit. So that's a critical hit. That's excellent. Okay, so which means I get an extra black die on damage. Now I just realized I made a small mistake because I have a green die here in the roll for the damage. I actually don't need to spend the 1 stamina point for the boost to the to hit because I already have 1 green die available. So for damage we roll 2 yellows and 1 black. So that is a total of 3 points of damage, which means that the Draugr has to save all 3 of those points of damage because it's a 1-point model. So let's see what its defense score looks like. So things aren't looking good for the Draugr because the Draugr only has an armor rating of 1 yellow die. So yellow dice can only save a max of 2. So it's going to die, but out of curiosity, let's see what it does here. Nothing. So it takes all 3 points of the damage, and the Draugr is removed from the table. Alright, so that's this guy off the table. We're going to remove his token as well because he no longer activates in this game. Now, this will activate a reaction from this model. Even though it activated this round due to the draw, it still has a reaction opportunity, so it's going to spend its reaction to try to attack the Dragonborn. Okay, so the Draugr, when it goes to attack, it has a strength of 3, and it has a green die boost for the attack. So let's see if we can hit the Dragonborn. So 2 minus 1, so that's a 1. That will hit, and it gets a single black dice for damage. So let's see what it does here. 3. That's pretty good. 3 damage against the Dragonborn. She's going to try to save against that to some degree. So she has an armor rating of 1 yellow die, but she also has a 1 autosave because of the studded armor she's wearing. So she only has to save against 2 of those wounds. So let's see how she does. Nothing. So she actually takes 2 points of damage. We'll mark that on her card. And then we'll carry on to the next round. So the end of round 2, we're going to draw our next event card, which is Divine Inspiration. Choose one of your models, and that model may reroll any number of dice from its next skill or attribute test. Alright, well hopefully we'll get something that we can use that for next round. Okay, so priority again goes to the adversaries in this round, so we're going to draw our token selection to see which one's going to activate. So after a bit of a shuffle, we are going to have item number 4, which is the archer just on the other side of the river here. Let's see what he's going to do. Alright, so as it was in the first round, we're going to roll off on Path of Shadow to see how the skeletons are going to react. So they're going to react with a movement. So he's going to end up taking a cautious movement towards the Dragonborn in hopes that maybe it'll get a shot off on next round. Okay, so the skeleton is going to move 6 inches. So I think the best course of action is, based on the AI, is to go to the bridge and maybe get halfway at the bridge. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to activate the Dragonborn, who's going to take a swing at the Draugr. So let's see how that works out. Okay, so the Dragonborn will take a swing. Let's see how she does. She needs a 5 or lower. So a 2 and a 2, so that's a 0, so that's counting as a hit. That means we get our 2 yellow dice for damage, doing a total of 2. Okay, so the Draugr is going to attempt to save that. He does save 1, taking 1 point of damage, meaning that he is staggered. Rather, that's incapacitated, so that's going to take the Draugr right out of the picture. Alright, so for the end of the round, we're going to draw our next event card. Now, because we didn't use Divine Inspiration this round, based on the wording of the model, I don't think I can really use this. It's gone because it was for my next skill check, and my last skill check was an attack roll that I really had no need to use Divine Inspiration for. So let's see what the event card has for us in store. Blessing of Arcade. Roll 1 red die and distribute that many health points amongst any of your wounded models. That works really well considering I have 2 wounds on the Dragonborn. Let's see what that does for us. Alright, Blessing of Arcade. Let's see what it's going to give us. 2 wounds back. She's back up to full health. That's excellent. Alright, let's go to the top of round 4. So the top of the 4th round, again, goes to the adversaries. So let's do a check on our scatter tokens here and see which one's going to activate. So spin this stuff around. Alright, so number 2 is going to activate, which is the skeleton on the other side of the riverbank. Alright, let's see what he's going to do. Okay, so rolling on the Path of Shadow table, we are going to be fleeing, actually. So that skeleton seems to have decided to tuck tail and run. So he's going to move away 6 inches, or at least take cover in the closest possible place within its speed. So let's have a look here. So the flee action isn't so much like a, hey, let's get some cover and sort of fight this out. It's quite literally a tuck tail and run action. So based on the way that the fallback action is designed, it's going to try to move as far away as it can from the adversary while maintaining cover. So what it's going to do is it's going to basically just tuck in behind this tree here, which it definitely has enough movement to do. And then we'll pass the activation over to the Dragonborn. So for this activation, I think it's pretty straightforward what we're looking at doing. The Dragonborn is going to move and basically attack the skeleton, and we definitely have enough movement to do that. So let's get on here. There we go, it's toe to toe, and I'll use its second action to attack. Maybe we can make dust out of the skeleton so we can make our way to the castle. Let's see. Okay, so with the steel longsword, we get the attack die plus an extra green die. So it's an 8 minus 1. That's going to be a miss. So unfortunately, the Dragonborn is not going to be able to do any damage this round. Alright, let's get to our event card then. Alright, so our 4th round event card is Secret Paths. Choose one friendly model that isn't staggered or incapacitated. That model may immediately move up to 6 inches, ignoring terrain and other models. It may not end this move in contact with an enemy or on impassable terrain. Interesting. Okay, so I can basically sidestep this right away. Alright, let's do that. Alright, so that was a bit of a cheeky way of getting out of combat. So, I think what we'll do is we will move 6 inches, boom, to here, and we'll end the turn there. Alright, so at the top of the 5th round, the priority goes to the Dragonborn. So we got a couple of options here, but I think we're just going to go and make a break for it. We've had some pretty good success with combat this game. So, I think what we're going to try to do is make a run for the castle. We'll probably have to fight the Draugr here, but bear in mind we also have the skeleton in the corner there that might pose a few problems. But let's see where this course of action takes us. So the Dragonborn is going to move. Now he doesn't have enough base movement to get to the Draugr, but he can run by expending his stamina, so let's do that. That'll put him in base to base, and let's see how we fare. Okay, let's try to hit with the steel sword. 1 minus 6 is 5, so that just barely hits, and that gives us 2 dice of damage. That does 2 points of damage. Let's see how the Draugr fares. He soaks it all up and doesn't take any. Good job. Alright, so now for the reverse to occur. The Draugr is going to attack. It has the same dice, but it's only 3 or better. It wildly misses. Alright, so next we have a skeleton that I believe is within 6 inches. Let's have a look. Okay, so let's have a look here. The skeleton is definitely well within 6 inches. So let's determine action based on the AI. So we have a pip, so it's a move towards. So it's going to cautiously advance. A cautious advance would bring it right around to here. Try to snip it in the back. Okay. Alright, let's get on to the event card. Alright, so for our round 5 event card, we have, let's see here, Ancient Riddles. Place a puzzle objective token on the gaming area no closer than 8 inches to any player-controlled model if possible. Place it as far away as possible otherwise. Okay, so I think I'm going to play with this a little bit. What I'm actually going to try to do is see if I can put the puzzle token right at the gate of the castle. It's going to be that sort of final challenge before we consider this a victory. It's rather convenient how well that worked out. 8 inches is exactly right up against the door of the castle. Alright, so for the 6th round, the Dragonborn takes priority. So for his first action, he's going to attack the Draugr. Let's have a look. Okay, so we're rolling our d20 and our bonus for the steel sword. Critical? Yeah, absolutely, we'll take that. So that is the 2 yellow dice plus a black die for damage. Oh, that's 5. I don't think the Draugr can soak that if it wanted to. Let's have a look here. Draugr have a single armor rating. It's done and dead like dinner, but let's see what we can pull off for dramatic purpose. It only manages to soak 1. It takes a whopping 4. That guy is off the table. And just like that, he's been taken right off. Okay. And then, moment of truth, can the Dragonborn make it to the table? Well, I can sprint 9, or I can walk 6, and it's 8 inches away. So it's going to get here. However, it cannot attempt to solve the puzzle token for this round because it's already expended its activation for attacking. So let's see what the opponents do on the table for this round. So the enemy activation goes to item number 2, which is the guy hiding in the tree just behind the stones there. Alright, let's go to the AI chart and see what he's going to do this round. Okay, so for the skeleton AI, let's see what we generate here. Dragon Helm, which is the flee action. Well, that's kind of anticlimactic. Alright, well let's get this show on the road here, and then we'll draw the event card for this round. So in another fit of absolute uselessness, the skeleton's going to backtrack a good 6 to 9 inches. It's going to try to get behind this tree. In order to do so, it needs to sprint, so it's going to expend the... oh my goodness. It's going to need to expend its stamina token to get behind here. And with that being said, let's go to the event card. Alright, so our round 6 event card consists of Secret Passage. Place a secret passage token within 3 inches of the target model, and then place another within 5 inches of the first secret passage token. Neither token may be placed in contact with a model or another token. For the rest of the game, any model voluntarily moving into contact with one of the tokens may immediately be placed in contact with the other. Okay, well, it's a bit of a late game for this one, but that's still pretty cool. Alright, let's move on to round 7. Alright, so round 7, the last round of priority, goes to the Dragonborn, who is basically all the way at the destination. They just need to solve that puzzle token to see whether or not they can actually go through and finish the scenario. So let's see what happens. Okay, so solving the puzzle isn't necessarily required to finish this scenario, but I'm going to try to anyway, because if I do, then I get 3 victory points and a treasure out of it, which isn't all bad. So let's see what happens. It's a 5. I require a 3 or less to do so, so unfortunately I don't pass. However, I will claim this as the victory for the scenario. And with very little effort, she's managed to make it into the tower, and therefore the game is over. Stay tuned for the post-game report. Alright guys, so what were my impressions of the first game? Not the greatest. Now, bear in mind that it was a homemade scenario that I kind of threw together with my understanding of the rules in order to start a narrative campaign for the Bleak Falls Barrow Delve. So, but I was fairly solid on the rules for the models, the adversary models. I did not like that literally half of the adversaries on the table just didn't do anything. I had 3 skeletons that couldn't have been more useless. They hung around in the back and they were more spectators than anything else. So, while I was putting together this video, I did go onto the Modiphius website and I did notice that there were some errata that were published a little while ago. Maybe some of those errata include changes to how the skeletons work, because based on that structure, the only way that I can see them operating in any offensive capacity is a 1 out of 3 roll on that black die to determine their actions, which is not very common, or if they have if they're responding to engagement. So if you charge them, then yeah, okay, they're going to attack, but they're not going to attack with their forte abilities, which is their bow. They're going to try to stab you with a 1 yellow die attack, trying to bone punch you. So I'm going to try running this through a few more times off camera and figure out whether or not there were some things that were missed. And hopefully those pointers will be taken into account when I run the Bleak Falls Barrow Delve itself, which is going to be coming over the course of the next couple months. Otherwise, I mean, I had fun with it. It was kind of neat to see this odd use of the dice play out, especially when you have the modifier options that are available. It's pretty cool. I dig this game. I'm definitely doing more with it. And there's a couple of new supplements that have come out that I'm also going to be looking at and seeing if I can either incorporate them into the Bleak Falls Barrow setup, or if it's just going to allow me to extend the gameplay. Modiphius just announced a Season 2 for their card set, which is going to include Dwemer stuff, so the metal constructs from what was the name of the city? I want to say it's Falkreath, but I'm not sure if that's accurate. So, more to come, more to see. I hope you guys enjoy it. Leave comments and questions below. If you have anything to add about how things were run, let me know. This was my first video, so it's not the greatest. The quality is bound to improve as more video captures put together for this channel. All right. Thank you very much. Subscribe with the button below, and thank you for tuning in. This is Sean from Northkin Gaming. You guys have a great evening.